Alrighty, folks. Simon here. This is the 2021 TAC Open Tournament, and this is a match between PlutoTheBrave and archvenison. And this is a pretty big one because if we look over here at the ratings, we've got archvenison at number 9 and Pluto at number 6 on PlayTAC. And if we look at the tournament standings, we got PlutoTheBrave at number 8 and archvenison at number 7. And they're separated by just 1 point here, and they each have just this final game in this round to go. So this is going to be pretty big. Look at that. So close. So no matter who wins here, they're going to be passing me in that number 6 spot. So I guess. All right, whatever. It's because if I played so poorly. Oh, they forgot to do Comey, so they got to start it again. Because I played so poorly in my games against archvenison, Archie is actually the only one to fully defeat me in this tournament so far. He beat me in both games, mainly due to my absolutely terrible play in game 1, and then some just poor play in game 2. But he played well. And so Pluto and I did split our games earlier in this tournament, and this is going to be a good one for sure. Now that they've got the rules all set up and ready to go correct on this game, we are ready to go with game 1 of PlutoTheBrave versus archvenison. All right, so let's see. A1 and A6, adjacent corner opening as usual. Don't know why Pluto's taken so long here. You all right, Pluto? Where'd you go? Okay, we get the center control play right here. That is going to be likely a mirrored opening situation here, and that's exactly what's happening. Arch playing just here at the same spot, and now he's likely going to play here at D3, but I believe we've seen archvenison play out in front. Ooh, he drops the early capstone. Now, I like the early capstone from black in this mirrored opening situation. It's pretty solid. And I know I've seen some pretty good play with that early capstone from black. And I'm not really sure what the proper response is here from white to be able to counter that early play from black. So we'll see. He is building around to the side here, knowing that he can make that adjacent, that diagonal connection here without worrying about black dropping a capstone in between, since he's already dropped that capstone down. White now building up at b5 after black fills in. And building up at b5, I guess, works because it does connect towards these pieces. Man, black just keeps on playing these super defensive moves, and they're not really going for their own threats yet. They're just building up this position and trying to keep white from gaining any speed in any direction here. White does have momentum, but it's so easily cut off by black with this capstone and these other flats that it's a little iffy right now to count on that momentum to bring them through with an advantage after any sort of capture war that takes place. Black now is starting to build towards their own threat in that vertical direction. And also, building towards this vertical direction threat is nice because it can also keep white from making this capture and making their own threat if you get the timing right. Black could start building along, but doesn't go for that yet. Bringing this capstone up. Now, it's interesting. The capstone going up here, I'm guessing, is so if white captures over, black can bring that capstone over and take on this area and really cut off everything that white's doing. And white has no capstone at the moment. White can't really counter with their own capstone or anything like that, but I'm wondering if white instead makes a placement here, maybe at a5, instead of making a capture, goes for the b6 placement instead. Okay, I can see that. Now, if black does bring it over all the way, it would have led to a bad FCD move here, but instead brings it just part of the way over and now can bring the whole stack over again on b4 if that's the play they want to go for. And I imagine it is, and sure enough, there we've got it. Now I can see black going for a horizontal threat along this direction or going for the vertical up here right on C. Either of those work pretty well, but black's going to have to do something about this. Decides to go with the capstone, or with a wall here, instead of bringing down a capture with the capstone. Likely because it would have invited a capstone placement here at b4. So I think white is in a little bit of trouble here, while white was driving the force of this game in the direction with the momentum and really making all these threats. Black now is sort of deciding where the play of this game is going. And I think black is in a pretty decent position, to be honest. And maybe could just start building up here vertically. Not going to be able to make a solid horizontal connection now that white has all of this filled in. And now I can see white building down below, cutting off black's vertical threat and going for their own horizontal. And they could do that up here as well, but I think that it's a little stronger down at the bottom, mainly because of the proximity of this capstone being able to spread upward. White now dropping the capstone, finally getting that capstone into play. A little bit late on the capstone, but not too late. But it is in a pretty solid position here, coming out right next to D3. Now, it's important because it's not up here at D4. D4 makes a lot of sense because, or D4 doesn't make a lot of sense because if you place it here and black were to do something with the capstone, actually, they can't really do anything with the capstone there. So D4, I think I might like a little bit better. Yeah, I think I would have liked D4 better, now that I think about it, because there's nothing that black could have done with that capstone to stop the D4 capture without losing to a road. Ornatus in the chat here talking about the playing along the B line here was very sensible for white, and I agree. Lots of placements, no captures, really, really solid play there. And now black is likely to be playing here at f4 to make that horizontal tack threat and force in a capture from white's capstone, and that's exactly what happens here. Now white wants to place up here at f5, and is black going to let them? That is a good question. If I were black here, I probably wouldn't be pushing my threat as much as I would be placing here at f5 to cut that off, because I don't want to have to make captures. But instead, just going to play down below at c3. Now we get the capstone threatening tack here. If this is threatening a road, black is going to have to make a capture of some kind on this turn in order to stop this horizontal road threat. Pluto doing a good job of keeping the pressure on here. Black does indeed go for the capture. Now, I think a d6 placement would make a little bit of sense, and also a c5 placement. Both of those would work to me. D6 would be a tack threat, but would invite a wall here on c5. White would not be a tack threat, or white placing at c5 would not be a tack threat, but it would keep black from placing that wall. And so I do kind of like both of those options. C5 for more long-term, f6. Ooh, actually, yeah, I like c5 better. And the reason for that is this. So if you place it f6, we could get, instead of a wall, we could get c6 left onto b6. And then we've got black going for the vertical threat along this line as well. And so that's where things could get a little iffy. We might see c6 left here, capturing down, and that way black can start building towards this vertical road along the C and B files. Or column. Yeah, column. All right, now black, decides to go for the wall instead. Gonna hold off on that capture until a little bit later in the game, I guess. Maybe once he's got C1 placed and can actually make that threat, that would make a little bit of sense. Okay, white now building down at D3. Now this is good because it keeps black from placing at D3 and making that connection along this direction. But it also allows white to come over to the left onto C3 at any point if black starts to build that vertical threat along C and B like I was talking about earlier. And that allows this D3 to just interrupt all of that and start to make a connection with this capstone itself. Black building around it and potentially just getting ready for a capture or just putting down flats. Arch made some pretty solid play in his game against me when he played as black. He worked really hard to make really solid flat count moves throughout the whole game to stay ahead in terms of flat count. Granted, I played pretty poorly and made some dumb moves that allowed him to do that, but he's really taking that to heart, I think, in this game. He wants to make sure that he's making very few flat-on-flat captures and really sticking to this flat game, especially because he's got that 2 Comey, and that's what he's working with in this tournament. Let's take a look at the flat count right now as it stands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 for white. That is huge for so early in the game. 20 turns in, he's already got 14 flats on the board. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So plus 2 is 11. That's 11 flats for black. Black does have 1 plus 3 move, which would take it to 14. So now black has 12 on the board. So bringing this plus 3 would be a 15. So if white were to, for example, flat out, black makes this move, and then they both flat out or something, or a board fill, whatever, it would be a draw, I guess, at 15-15, depending on who ended the game. But, man, this is a pretty close one in terms of flats and positioning in this spot. I can see black building down along this direction. He's got to be careful, though, because if white plays here at F3, F3 would be attack threat, bringing down that capstone onto C3. And that's exactly what happens here. Bringing that capstone down is that threat. And it also works towards, ooh, black moving down here. Okay. Currently, no tag threat for black. White can fill in here, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure there's no tag threat. No tag threat here. White can fill in at B4 and make their own threat. I'm trying to spot any sort of... Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. This is another tag threat. Either capturing up with D3 or capturing down with D5 would be a road. So black has to do something about that, and it's got to be a capture. At this point in the game, this is a tricky position. I'm really surprised by this move from black to make that capstone capture. I think he's focusing maybe in that move, he's focusing a little bit too much on not making these flat-on-flat captures and not giving white the opportunity to liberate any captives and make these positive flat count differential moves. And that might be hurting him here. All right, we do see black taking his time in the response here. And it's got to be a capture along this area. It's got to be on B4 or A4. Because, okay, that one also does work. Being able to capture up there stops it. Now, black or white can immediately renew the threat by placing up here at E6, and that's a different threat of throwing the capstone up onto C6. And that's exactly what happens. There's that threat yet again on this horizontal direction, but using different flats to make it. Okay, excellent play. Also, you'll notice that this E6 placement brings an anchor point along in the vertical direction as well. And so now white can start playing down below, maybe at F2, F1, and make this throw with the capstone all the way across to make that vertical connection. And so I think we might be seeing that in the next couple moves. We might be seeing a placement here at F2 now that black has come over and stopped that threat. Instead, we're seeing white make an immediate attack threat by bringing that capstone stack down onto c3. Now, bringing this flat down, bringing this flat over, either of those would be attack threat. Black can stop that pretty easily, but white's putting the pressure on and causing black to make all of these captures, which, after these captures have been made, white can use to build a stronger position, liberate captives, and come even farther ahead in terms of flat count differential. If you're unfamiliar with flat count differential, we've covered it in the FCD or flat count differential video of TAC University, and you can check that out on the YouTube channel. And so it looks like we've got black coming down here. This isn't a threat of any kind, but it's pretty close to one, to be honest. Black can place here at e4 or at f2, and that would be attack threat for black, which would be a change of pace here. White is unable to make a attack threat at this moment, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they can renew the threat in one turn. No, they cannot. But they do drop a wall here. Now, the wall is in a solid position to be able to come down and capture onto e3 and liberate the captive under there, but can't do that on this turn because now black has made the road threat. White saw that coming, knew that was going to be the response, and brought that capstone down immediately. Black fills in here at c3. Now this isn't attack threat, but it will be one in the next turn. So white decides to bring that wall down, ready to liberate that captive and potentially make some more threats in the future. Black filling in, just making lots and lots and lots of flat placements, trying to get ahead in terms of flats. And I think that based on the moves that I'm seeing from archvenison here, he's really focusing on getting those flats on the board and trying to win this in terms of a flat game. From the very beginning, he's making threats, sure, but he's really just trying to get those flats on the board. And he's playing fairly quickly. When you look at here, we're 27 moves in, and he's just at 14.5 minutes. And with the tournament settings, it is 15 base minutes for your timer, and 15-second increment on the clock, meaning 15 seconds added to your time after every turn you take. So, I think we're going to be looking here at potentially a move using this wall, either going up, going down, one of those. Instead, we're seeing a fill, and yeah, I like that. I like it. It's not attack threat, but it is threatening one on the next turn. And it's sort of waiting on black to make that first move so they can respond in the direction they want to. So black decided to play instead up at c5, which, again, not attack threat, but working towards one. Black really getting all these flats on the board. Let's take a look at the flat count score again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 flats for white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we do have the 2 Comey for black, so that's 14. So black is ahead on flats right now. This play from black of using these black flat placements, trying to stay ahead on flats, is working out for him. However, white did just make a attack threat by bringing this capstone up onto c3. Now we've got this connection here following from a4 down to c3. Now white can take this wall stack and move it upwards or down, and leaving behind one white flat here onto e3 would be a road. So black's going to have to do something to stop that, and it's going to have to be a capture. I am guessing maybe a capture here onto c4. No, decides to come down with the wall onto a4. I understand that white can renew this threat right away by doing a b4 minus play, but he doesn't want to be able to give this capstone an opportunity to come up and capture onto b3. So first he's going to place at c2. Now this is really smart. The reason he's placing here at c2 is then on the next turn, if he comes down with b4, black won't be able to come up with the capstone onto b3. Because if he does, it would leave another attack threat for white to place at b2. So first he's coming down. Now he's got the attack threat. ready to go with the b4 minus. This is a good position here for white. I'd say white is definitely winning this game currently, but there's plenty of room for black to come back here, specifically in the flat game. Black's got to be careful. Got to disassemble or dissemble. Yeah, I think it's dissemble. Got to dissemble these threats that white is building in such a way that he can still come ahead in terms of flat count. I can see one of the options here is bringing this wall down, but it just leads to a fill in here at a4. White just placing another flat there at a4 would renew it. So gonna go for the wall coming over onto b4 from a4. That does cut off that immediate threat. Now I wonder if white is going to be filling in up here. And going for the vertical direction now. He is filling in at a5. So that is going for that vertical direction, but also cutting off black's threatening position there along that side, because black was placing potentially at a5 and another couple moves to go for this vertical line. And white cuts that off and at the same time starts building towards that vertical threat of their own. Good positioning, I'd say, for white. Black fills in to keep white from just placing another flat there and making that tack threat. Ooh, okay, so this is getting tricky now. We are, I think he's well beyond the carry limit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if he wants to move this capstone, he must leave behind at least one black flat. I believe this one and this one have to stay behind. He can leave behind more if he'd like, but he must leave behind at least one black flat there. So tough position to be in, to have your capstone underneath such a big stack because of that carry limit. Carry limit is 6 on a 6x6 board. So white is making a tack threat here. Black did have to respond. I'm surprised there wasn't a wall here, probably trying to keep track of his flats and make sure he's not making any bad flat count differential moves here. Now we get black coming down to make the capture, and then white immediately filling in here at f4. Now, this is not a tack threat for white, but it can be one in the next turn. This is a tricky position for sure. Trying to... Ooh, wow, that was unexpected, to say the least. Okay, let me look at this again. So he's got this... he's got this capstone stack here, and he brings all 4 pieces across, dropping 2 here. So that's 2 white flats there, which leaves 3 white flats on this space. 1 white flat, and then smashes this wall to recover these 2 captives. And the end result looks like this. Now, in this position, like it may look really great for white to be able to just drop something somewhere, maybe here, to make a threat. Decides to go for the spread. I got to look back at that again. Spreads up, drop 1, 1, 1. This is not a tack threat, but it can be one on the next turn. Black is likely going to be spreading. Oh man, may not spread, may bring that whole stack up onto e3. If that's the case, then that's going to be pretty tough for white to stop while still maintaining an offensive position. Oh, this is turning out to be a crazy game here. Black does bring that whole stack up, like I was saying. Oh, but white brings over that stack to make a road. I didn't even see it. Clearly, black didn't see it either. Let's take a look at this again. So this is the road threat here, taking this white flat stack, dropping 2 across. So dropping 1 and then dropping 1, making the connection here from f4 all the way to a3. Black didn't see it, missed that threat. Absolutely phenomenal play, really well done. Well played, Pluto the Brave. That was a great play, great setup. Really drove this momentum and really controlled this game for basically the whole time. There were a few moments there where black had a pretty strong position and was making some good headway and doing well with flats, but eventually Pluto was able to overwhelm that position. So really, really well done. That was awesome to see. let's jump right in here to game 2 of archvenison versus Pluto the Brave in this 2021 TAC Open tournament match. This time, archvenison is in white and Pluto the Brave is in black. We do see the adjacent corner opening here. And will we see that center control, or will Archie go for that knight's opening? Does go for the center control here. Mirrored opening. I don't expect Pluto to drop a capstone here, much like Archie did, but we are seeing that same pattern we see in so many games that I tried to split up a little bit by switching things up when I was black. But it worked most of the time, I'd say, in this tournament. So we are seeing the same pattern. This is where black plays here. Oh, decides to drop the capstone now. This is where white now plays at c2, I'm guessing, to switch the direction of the threat to a horizontal one. Because now that black has this capstone here ready to basically kill all momentum in the vertical direction, white's going to need to do something else. And so building over here at c2 would help move that in the other direction. And also cut off black's own vertical threat. So we do see that c2 move played. And we've seen a number of different ways that black has moved against that sort of move. I like an a2 move here. The white has not dropped the capstone yet. That can be a little tricky. If black, say, drops at a2, oh, doesn't go for the a2. Might go for the a2 on the next turn after white plays maybe at b2. Let's see. Does go for the b2. Now we'll likely see a2 from black and then a capstone on a3 from white. Finally get that capstone down, and it would put that capstone all the way here in the corner, which not the best of situations for a capstone to be in, to be all the way in the corner like that. So that's why Archie's taken so long to decide whether to place that capstone here or not. Typically, you don't want that capstone off to the side of the board on one of the edges, as it can be more isolated from the action in the rest of the board. And we've covered that in the Capstones video of TAC University, talking about the best place to put your capstones. Now, this is where we do see a3 drop a flat, not a capstone. And that's important to note. Black can now drop at a4 or decide to go up at c6 potentially. To do that first. Be interesting to see what they go for. Maybe a b1. Actually, I like b1 a lot more than the a4. b1 is a bit stronger, I'd say, in terms of positioning. And the reason for that, b1, able to cut off this option for white to play at b1, which would be a vertical threat. As well as maybe connecting over here to the side. So a lot more, I'd say, defensive and offensive opportunities with a b1 than an a4. a4 is a little more isolated, and then the a3 minus can come down and basically isolate that a4 piece. Goes for c1 instead. Very surprising, and I don't really understand it. Not in the slightest. I don't know why a c1 there and not a b1. Maybe it was a misclick? I don't know. Probably not. Now we do see the c1. This is where it's a vertical threat. Black had to stop. It does decide to bring over that capstone. White going to continue there. Black might play at c6 here. I think a c6 is smart, and here's why. c6 gets played. Not attack threat for black. White continues, makes their attack threat by playing at f2. Black brings this capstone down. Suddenly it's attack threat in this horizontal direction. Easy to stop, sure, but it can bring that momentum onto your side. Force your opponent to make captures that they would rather not make. Forcing these flat-on-flat captures that can bring you farther ahead in terms of flat count. Instead, fortifying his position before he does any of those things. I like that too, because now any sort of capture that happens on c4 or on c3 can just be retaken at essentially no cost. I like that. Also important to note, white hasn't dropped that capstone yet, and white is probably looking for a place to do that. And one of the ways to do that is to force a capture from your opponent, and then once they capture, you can fill in to the place they left with your capstone. And that is typically a pretty solid position because it's part of their own threat, potentially. Ooh, we do see the attack threat here from white. Black brings that capstone down. I know black wanted to place at c6 first, but not really an option, had to respond soon. So that's exactly what happened here. Now white may decide to drop the capstone here. Does do that. Fills in right there at d3 where that capstone left. Now white's got the capstone on the board. Black now has attack threat. White's going to have to respond to that. Maybe with a d5 left. Does go for the d5 left. Kind of surprising because that does work towards their own vertical threat, but it's in a pretty decent position. I think a c6 minus here would be pretty good for black. It may lead to a wall here on c6, but ooh, instead dropping a wall there. I like that also. Able to come across and liberate that captive. White brings the capstone over, trying to interrupt things. Doing a good job of it also. I think the wall should come over anyway. It's not attack threat from white. Black can totally do that. White can't even make attack threat on the next turn. So I would say yes, black does have momentum here, and I do like this d5 left move from black with that that wall stack. Instead, playing at d3. Okay. Not as offensive as he could be. And now white can make attack threat on the next turn. That's what I was saying. If black had gone ahead and made that move, black would have had the momentum there. But instead, by placing a d3, black gave the momentum away to white. Now black's in a little bit of trouble here. Let's take a look at the flat count also. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. To 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Plus 2 is 11. So 10 to 11. So black's just barely ahead in terms of flat count. And I think he's going to be a little bit of a pickle here. But placing up here at e4 I think was a good play. If white's flat comes down onto d3, black can just bring this down onto e3 and interrupt the whole thing. White now making the attack threat with the b2 plus move, which also interrupts black's vertical threat that they were building towards. How will black respond here? Could be with an e4 minus, e4 left. Could be moving the capstone. Could be moving this. Decides to move the capstone. Interesting. Interesting. White filling in at f3, making another attack threat. Forcing black to make more captures. That is not what black wants to be doing here. Black wants to be getting their own flats on the board, because now that white is putting more and more flats on the board, white is coming closer to running out of reserves, which is coming closer to ending this game. And white can kind of control when the game ends. Now black is getting more and more flats underneath that capstone. That is not where you want to be, especially when they're all enemy flats there. It becomes really, really difficult to make good moves with that capstone, the more flats that go underneath there. If he had maybe a friendly underneath, he could do some work with it, but since it's just enemy captives, that becomes difficult. White renewing the threat by placing down at D2, and then black blocking it by placing at E2. White can renew again by placing an E1, and that's probably what they're going to do, just keep that pressure on, similar to how PlutoTheBrave was doing it in the previous game, just keeping that pressure on as white and just pushing and pushing and pushing the game. Black's made a couple blunders, I'd say. That one missed momentum move here. Potentially, that was a bad move, and I just wasn't seeing why that was not a great move, but we'll see. White does, in fact, play at E1 and make that, that renewed attack threat. Black can stop that, maybe with an E2 left, but again, it gets filled in at D1, and then suddenly it's another attack threat. So a lot of problems right here for white, or for black. Black is struggling in this situation, and black can cut it off by capturing up onto A3 here, and that would be a good way to cut it off, at least for the moment. But it's just a solid position over here to the left, and can be renewed very easily. I'd say black is in a lot of trouble in this moment in the game. White has a clear command of the board, at least this portion, which is really the only one that matters right now. And black is going to have to do some serious work to come back from it, and I'm not sure that they can. I don't know what the best move here would be, to be honest. This is a really, really tricky position for black. I think any sort of capture over here on A3 would lead to... Capture on A3 would probably lead to an A2 placement, which would threaten to recapture on A3 or just a placement at B2 to renew that attack threat. Although, since it wasn't an immediately renewed attack threat, A2 plus is probably the best way to go. A2 plus, then drop a wall here on B2 after white fills in at A2. No, instead goes for the B3 minus. Now, this is interesting because B4 minus captures onto B3, and black didn't want to do that because didn't want to allow the capstone to liberate the captives here. However, the capstone liberating the captives would stop the current position, and that is not what white wants to do. Wants to keep that capstone where it is, which is why white filled in at D1. Now, this is not attack threat. I'm pretty positive this is not attack threat. Yeah, not attack threat, but white built that position up. Now black can make the C1 right capture. Even though it wasn't attack threat, I would say fortifying the position would have been a stronger move there. Maybe a wall here at B2. Something along those lines would have been the better move. And now we get the capstone capture. No attack threat here from white. Again. But black needs to be making some moves here to get back in the game. And D3 minus, while it is a capture, might be a good move here. I mean, sure, you want to place flats more, but he's in such a predicament. He's got to do something, maybe a wall somewhere. Do something about all this power that white has gotten. And I think this is a good opportunity to do it since white needs 2 turns to make a attack threat. And so black can do that. Interrupt that advantage. Potentially, again. But how is he going to do it? That is the question. Pluto taking his time now. We do see the time difference here. Arch is at 14.5 minutes on the clock. Pluto at 11 minutes on the clock. So Archie playing fairly quickly. And Pluto taking quite a bit more time, as he should at this point, since he's in a bit of a predicament, and this is his opportunity to find his way out. And I'm looking at the same time to try and find his way out. I like d3 minus. I like the wall there at c3 also. I think that's a good play. I think white is going to play a flat here at b2. And there it goes. I'm psychic. That's what it is. So this is attack threat from white. Black stops it by bringing that wall down. Knew that was going to happen. Really, really tough position here for black. White can shift gears and go for the vertical threat now, if they want to. Might not want to. Might want to place at c3. Maybe place at c1. Placing at c1 would be another attack threat right away. A little bit harder to see since it's not following along the same line. But placing at c1 is attack threat by doing a d2 minus. And so not exactly in the forefront of your mind here. And so that could be missed, but probably not. Does go for the c1. I'm sure black will see the d1 minus. Absolutely. Already had that move cocked and loaded for when that happened. Let's see where white goes now. Now that this is sort of cutting everything off, I mean, white may decide to threaten this wall stack and smash it. I mean, we've seen that white is okay with smashing stacks. White going for that vertical line now. Black coming over, finally making the capture onto this stack to liberate that black captive, make a positive flat gun differential move. If white does play at a5, you may see the toss all the way, dropping a black flat here at b5, and then the wall stack here at a5. That would be a +2 move. We may see that, or black may decide to try and just place up here and ruin that vertical threat that way. And that would work. Okay, so he's going for the placement because he kind of wants to maintain this half vertical threat here. Not super great, not super strong, but it's there, and it's sort of the only thing he's got going for him right now. So now this is going to require a capture in order to stop this threat. Does go for the capstone toss. I mean, we may see here. Okay, he goes for a placement instead. I was expecting maybe a capstone toss, dropping, just taking the top 3 from the stack, leaving a white here, dropping 1 black, and then dropping the rest here. As that would be a attack threat and threaten this stack at the same time. I think that would be really strong there. But didn't go for that. He can still go for it now, though. I really like that move, that coming up. It may prompt black to bring the capstone over onto b3, but that would be putting a lot of white flats on the board and making a lot of trouble for himself later on down the road. But who knows what happens there. Making the attack threat here. c5 left would be a road. Black comes up with it. Looks like kind of dedicating their time here to the horizontal threat. White immediately drops that wall to recapture and liberate the captive. Smart move, I'd say. Smart move. Now what can black do here? Go for the vertical, it looks like. Oof. This is going to be tough. Black is in a very tough position. In the Discord chat, after last game, archvenison said that he was on a desperate defense for the entire game. And in this one, it looks like Pluto the Brave is the one in a desperate defense for the entire game. So this is going to be really, really tough here for Pluto to get out of this, and I wonder if it's even possible. I mean, I'm sure it's possible, just maybe not for me. Ooh. Archie is not taking any chances here, dropping the wall. Let's take a look at the flat count. I wonder why he was so confident in being able to drop that wall there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And this is attack threat from black. White has to make a capture. So 15 for black. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for white. So white only has 12 flats. What? Oh, was that Tinue? No, was it Tinue? I think it was Tinue. So it's attack threat in the horizontal direction and in the vertical direction. I think that was Tinue, and I think that's why archvenison resigned. Hold up here. Wall coming over, can't stop it. Wall coming up, can't stop it. This coming, can't stop. This can't stop. Nope. Yeah, it is Tinue, and that's exactly why archvenison resigned. Excellently played, Pluto. It was clearly something that Pluto was going for and didn't expect to succeed. And yeah, and archvenison fell right for it. That is all for today. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the description below for all things TAC, especially the TAC Discord server, which is where you can find all sorts of people to play with online. You can find all sorts of different resources as well. You can even play people online right there through the Discord server asynchronously, playing maybe one move a day if you want to, or more frequent. And right here on PlayTAC, you can find all sorts of people to play with through the Discord. Say, hey, I want a game on PlayTAC. Plenty of people will be all for that. Anyway, that is all. Thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great day and happy tech.